As we grow older, it's natural for our priorities to shift. What once seemed vital, maintaining a wide circle of friends, constantly filling our days with social obligations, can begin to feel less important as we approach our 70s and beyond. The idea of not needing friends after this age may sound surprising, perhaps even unsettling. However, in embracing independence, many seniors find a new, deeply fulfilling way of living, one that isn't driven by the pressure of social expectations, but by personal freedom and peace. In this video, we're going to explore why friendships are no longer a necessity for many individuals in their later years. We'll look at 6 compelling reasons why letting go of the need for constant social interaction can open the door to a more peaceful, joyful, and independent life. It's not about loneliness. It's about freedom, empowerment, and living life on your own terms. By the end of this discussion, you may come to realize that, in some ways, you don't need to chase friendships to live a richer, more fulfilling life. Reason 1. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. As we age, one of the most beautiful things is the realization that we no longer need to prove ourselves. In our younger years, friendships and social circles often felt like an arena for validation. We tried to fit in, impress, and maintain appearances, all while seeking approval and recognition from those around us. But once you hit your 70s, that phase of life becomes a distant memory. At this stage, your worth isn't tied to the opinions or judgments of others. You have lived through the years that taught you the value of self-acceptance. Social validation no longer holds the same weight. You have earned the wisdom to know that true fulfillment doesn't come from external approval, it comes from within. Take the example of Harold, a man in his early 70s who spent decades climbing the corporate ladder. Surrounded by colleagues, acquaintances, and what he thought were friendships, Harold found that many of these relationships were built on convenience, not genuine connection. Upon retiring, these relationships faded, and Harold was left questioning why he should continue to put effort into friendships that were not truly meaningful. Instead of chasing after relationships that were born out of work or obligation, Harold embraced the freedom of focusing on his passions. He rediscovered old hobbies, spent more time doing what he loved, and realized that life could be far richer when he stopped worrying about impressing others. This is the beauty of embracing independence after 70. You realize that you are enough just as you are without needing to meet anyone else's expectations. Reason 2. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As you age, peace starts to outweigh socializing. In your younger years, being around others might have been an essential part of life. You may have felt the pressure to attend every gathering, join every event, and keep up with everyone's busy schedules. But by the time you reach 70, you may begin to notice that you value solitude and quiet moments far more than you once did. This shift isn't about rejecting people or friendships, but about realizing that peace, true, uninterrupted peace, is far more precious than social obligations. Friendships, even the best ones, come with responsibilities, phone calls to return, invitations to accept, and unspoken expectations to maintain contact. It's not that friendships are inherently bad, it's that as you age, your time becomes more valuable. You no longer have the energy or desire to maintain relationships that feel draining or obligatory. Take Margaret, a 74-year-old woman who once had a large social circle. She attended lunches, calls, and social gatherings regularly. But as the years passed, she began to notice how tiring these interactions had become. Conversations felt repetitive. The same stories were shared over and over. Some of her friends seemed to call only to complain or gossip, leaving Margaret feeling emotionally exhausted rather than fulfilled. One day, Margaret made a conscious decision to step back. She stopped saying yes to every invitation and started embracing the quiet. She began to walk longer distances, read books she had meant to get to, and enjoy the serenity of nature. She realized that solitude didn't mean loneliness. It meant peace. The peace of no longer feeling obligated to entertain or please anyone. Reason 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. As you age, you begin to see relationships for what they truly are. Unfortunately, many friendships, no matter how close they once seemed, can become one-sided or fade away when you need them most. Over the years, you may have experienced disappointments, friends who drifted away, people who seemed too busy when you needed them, or relationships that required more effort than they were worth. At 70, you've probably learned that fewer, stronger friendships are far more fulfilling than a wide network of acquaintances that lack depth or sincerity. And the key realization here is that fewer friendships also mean fewer disappointments. Take William, for instance, a man in his 78th year who began noticing that many of the friendships he'd spent years cultivating were fading. He was the one making the effort to stay in touch, while others seemed to become increasingly distant. At first, this hurt. William wondered if he had done something wrong, but then he had a breakthrough. He didn't need to keep investing in friendships that weren't mutual. As he let go of some of these relationships, he started to focus more on the ones that truly mattered. William's experience shows us that we don't need to feel disappointed when relationships don't measure up. It's perfectly okay to step back and prioritize those who bring us joy and require little effort to sustain. Reason 4. Your time becomes more precious. As you get older, you become acutely aware of the value of time. In your younger years, it may have seemed like there was an abundance of time to engage in social activities. But by the time you reach 70, every hour, every moment feels more precious. And you begin to ask yourself, is this time being spent in ways that truly serve me? For Richard, in his early 80s, socializing once seemed like an essential part of life. Dinner parties, group outings, and regular phone calls filled his schedule. However, as time went on, Richard found these activities draining rather than enjoyable. The conversations felt like repetitive small talk, and the gatherings became more like obligations than celebrations. One day, while sitting through yet another social event, Richard had a realization. He no longer wanted to spend his time in this way. He began saying no when he didn't feel like attending an event, and he started prioritizing things that truly brought him happiness. He took long walks, focused on his health, and enjoyed quiet moments in nature. Remarkably, Richard discovered that by letting go of unnecessary social commitments, he felt more fulfilled and at peace. This realization is powerful. When you stop spending time out of obligation, you gain control over how you spend your moments, and you begin to focus on the things that truly matter to you. Reason 5. True companionship comes from within. As we age, the misconception that we need a large group of friends to be happy is finally dispelled. The truth is, the most meaningful companionship you can have is the one you build with yourself. You spend decades learning, evolving, and discovering who you are. And with that deep self-awareness, you come to realize that you are enough. Take Eleanor, for example. At 76, she had spent her life filling her schedule with social activities, always surrounded by people. But over time, she noticed that despite her busy social life, she often felt drained rather than uplifted. She realized that many of her friendships were based on routine, not genuine connection. So, she decided to change. Eleanor began spending more time alone, doing the things she truly enjoyed, walking, reading, and reflecting on her life. As she embraced her own company, she felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than ever before. This shift allowed her to rediscover a level of freedom that many people never experience. The freedom to be content with yourself without needing to rely on others for validation. True companionship is not about the number of people around you, it's about the peace you find within. When you enjoy your own company, you naturally attract the right people into your life, those who respect your space, understand your values, and bring peace, not pressure. Reason 6. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. The most powerful thing you can do after 70 is let go. Let go of the friendships that no longer bring joy. Let go of the idea that your worth is defined by the size of your social circle. Let go of the belief that being alone means being lonely. When you let go, you open the door to a life that is simpler, freer, and far more fulfilling. By releasing the pressure to maintain friendships that have become burdensome, you give yourself permission to focus on what truly matters to you. James, in his late 70s, spent much of his life staying socially active, believing it was the key to aging well. But over time, he realized that these social interactions no longer felt meaningful. They were draining, repetitive, and no longer brought him joy. So, James made a choice. He stopped forcing friendships that no longer felt authentic. He focused instead on his health, spent more time outdoors, and pursued things that truly made him happy. The surprising result? He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than ever before. Letting go doesn't mean shutting yourself off from the world. It means creating space for the things that fulfill you. You realize that your happiness isn't tied to how many people are in your life, but to how aligned your life is with your true desires. As we enter the later stages of life, we find that the pressure to maintain friendships and social obligations fades. The reality is that in your 70s and beyond, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone, nor do you need a large circle of friends to feel validated. Peace, personal growth, and inner fulfillment take center stage. When you release friendships that no longer serve you, you free yourself from the disappointments and obligations that once consumed your time and energy. You begin to understand the true value of your time and prioritize what truly brings joy. You embrace the companionship of your own thoughts, finding strength, peace, and fulfillment in your own company. Life after 70 offers an incredible opportunity to focus on what truly matters: your health, your happiness, and your personal growth. Letting go of outdated expectations and embracing the freedom that comes with independence can transform your later years into a deeply fulfilling chapter of your life. The key is recognizing that the relationships that matter most are the ones you have with yourself. If this perspective resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on the ways in which you can embrace peace and freedom in your own life. Remember, you don't need a large social circle to feel fulfilled. You just need to be true to yourself.